All right, wow, I can't believe I've had such an amazing set of talks today. From cosmology, we have a theme of C's. We've got cosmology, communities, cancer, communication, and couches, couch surfing. So unlike all of you, I was a graduate student back a long time ago in a land far, far away. Actually, I was an undergrad here at the University of Washington, and then I got this crazy idea that it would be great to go and do science in a land that's only reachable by airplanes. The magical kingdom of Scotland, where they're known for incredibly dramatic landscapes, cloned animals, that's Dolly the sheep, and guys who wear skirts. But one of the great things about Scotland is it's been the source of a lot of the developments over the ages in science. And one of the things the Scots do great is connect the science with the community and come up with ways to inform decisions and talk about decisions and enact policy, which is kind of what we're all talking about today. I had the good fortune of going to Scotland almost 70 years after this guy was born. This is Sir Alexander Fleming. He's a microbiologist just like myself, and his desk looks almost exactly like mine, a complete and utter mess, which is great for a microbiologist because everything gets contaminated. But what Alexander Fleming did was he studied bacteria and fungus and mold, and he enjoyed his holidays. So in 1928, he went on a vacation. And when he came back, his desk looked like that. And he went, oh my God, my desk is a disaster, and tried to clean it out. And what he found when he was cleaning it out, whoa, where's the pointer? Aha, was this mold right here. And it caused this zone of clearing. And so in 1928, Alexander Fleming said, wow, this is bizarre. What's this? And in 1941, we had penicillin. One of the biggest discoveries of the world, in the 20th century, changed the course of human history, arguably. Most of us wouldn't be alive without it. Most women would have died in childbirth. You could have died having your teeth filled. Let's say you hopped the fence to grandma's and got a nail scratch. You would have died if he hadn't discovered penicillin, and if the World War hadn't come along and we needed to industrialize this compound. So in 1945, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and arguably was just recently honored as one of the most important men of the 20th century. So that inspired me. I grew up in a house that kind of intersected art and science. And I knew I never wanted to be a doctor. Absolutely not. You got guts, keep them. But I was inspired by this idea that you don't have to have a preconceived notion, that if you look and listen and channel, as it were, you could come up with stuff. And I got enamored with this, with this molecule right here, streptomycin. And I understood when I started graduate school that streptomycin did something. You get sick, oh no. Terrible, right? You get an antibiotic, something magical happens in you, and these guys at the top, these E. coli, they die. But we have no idea how you go from drug to death. Absolutely no idea. And as a result of that, we can't design new drugs. So 5 years on, late nights, long hours, little pay, no heat. It was a labor. And at the end of 5 years, I was like, wow, great, I'm done. How many PhD students are almost at the end of their degree? Yay for you. At the end of mine, I went, oh my goodness, I'm done. I get to be a grown-up now. I get to have a job. Yay. I might have heat next week. And that was in 2008, right, when the recession started. And I found it incredibly hard to get a job for a really complex reason. Not complex to me, but complex to the policy world. Details are not important. This information is all publicly available. But what you see going up, these green and yellow lines going up, are the rise in antibiotic and multi-drug resistant infections across the world. Okay? These are bacteria that you could get infected with any day of the week that we have no treatments for, or very few treatments for. MRSA, how many people have heard of MRSA? 60% resistant to antibiotics at this time. Okay? So we had this great big huge trend going on, which being in Scotland, I understood. We talked about these issues every day. They were on the nightly news once a week. When I moved to America, I was horrified to know no one knew. In the same time period here, okay, this is about when I moved to Washington State. This is when I started my PhD. This is when I graduated, okay? In the same time period, look at the decrease in drugs that come to market. The year I graduated, 2008, there were 506 drugs submitted to the FDA. 5 of those were antimicrobials. And at the same time, we see this huge decrease in the number of pharmaceutical companies researching. Right? Great market for pharma. We create this drug, you get it, you take it for a long time, you get better. But yet, they've been actively decreasing research funding for since the 70s. So I went around and I said, wow, what the heck? What's that about? And then something even more tragic happened. Our grant wasn't funded. So here I am, March 2010, no money, ended a postdoc tragically, and I said, what the heck do you do? Well, I got drunk. And then I thought about it, and then I beat a video game, Gods of War rock. And then I said, you know what, I didn't go to school 15 years to sit and watch cable TV, soap operas, and play every video game on the face of the earth. I went to school to study and to change things. And so I said, what's the best thing I can do? Well, we got this knowledge gap going on here. Nobody in America is aware of this thing, or very few people. And as a result of it, microbiologists like myself are dying. We are an endangered species. There are 36 antimicrobials researchers in the country. 35 if you don't count me. So I got in my car. I have a little tiny Honda Fit. I put 15,000 miles on it, and every day I talked science. I talked about drug resistance. I talked about funding. I talked about how pharma's not interested in this, and our governments have to fund basic research. And when I got here, so I drove from Syracuse, New York, Washington State, 15,000 miles. Yeah, I know it's only 3. When I got here, I said, wow, that was amazing. I learned so much. What did I learn? I learned that the general public has such a tremendous respect for what we as researchers do. And they will say thank you, but you have to talk to them. I also learned that we have this great big huge problem with our budget. Everybody hears about it at least once a day if you read the paper or listen to the news. And there's all this arguing right now about these guys. Discretionaries. Discretionaries. And what are we going to do with them? Well, what I learned in the drive across the country is that nobody realizes that research is a discretionary thing. They just think it's going to happen. Just so you know, the budget that we're talking about right now, the 2013 budget, right here in this non-defense discretionary, which is where all those sequester cuts are going to come, is where most of your research is funded from. NIH, NSF, DOE, USDA, Commerce, CDC, all of these agencies are funded right here. Okay? That's 2% of the entire GDP. 2%. NIH budget is 0.8%. You might ask, right, we hear all these great things, all the other countries are doing well, et cetera, et cetera. Brian Cox has a great slide that shows that Britain is also 0.8% for biomedical research. So what can we do? What can we do? Well, I decided, great, I've done my little fact-finding mission. Nobody knows what's going on. Let's go make them know what's going on. So I went to Capitol Hill. I got in touch with ASBMB, that's the American Society for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, and another group called CLS, which is the Coalition for Life Sciences. They're professional societies that you can join, have membership fees, but they're not very much. They sponsor Hill Days. Go. They pay you to come. They teach you everything you need to know. And they bring you out, you talk to your representatives, and you can make a difference. I was so excited. I stayed for a week. And it happened to be the week that the Supreme Court was debating the health care law. So one day you've got the crazies saying, keep off my health care. One day you've got the people saying, no, I want my health care. And all in the middle of it, we're standing there saying, but you're not going to have your health care if you don't fund our basic research. Pay attention. So when you talk to Congress or anyone, you have to tell them thank you to start with. This is how Washington State benefits from the money that Congress spends in that discretionary fund, that 2%. Pretty good. University of Washington's been the top recipient of federal money since 1974. That's longer than I've been alive, thankfully. And I'm sure everybody knows, Seattle's the largest biotech, or the 6th largest biotech corridor, behind places primarily on the East Coast and San Francisco. And these are good jobs. These aren't retreading tires. These aren't McDonald's level jobs. These are solid jobs. But the biggest, most important thing about our work is look at what we do. Whoa, if you give us $1, we give you $2.25 back. It's amazing. So if you talk to Congress, you want to tell them. You want to tell them thank you, but then you want to tell them what the problem is. I was saying NIH. Don't look at the numbers. The trend is what we care about. Green line is real dollars. Red line is inflationary adjusted dollars. What I'm showing you here is that you buy less now. You buy what you did at the turn of the century. And that's why you have a 17% success rate on NIH grants. That means 83% of ideas aren't funded because we haven't controlled for inflation. It's insane. Yeah, especially when you consider that $11 billion are spent on bottled water, and that would fund the CDC for 18 months. Crazy. So we talked to Congress. Congress was really receptive. I don't know anybody who says, cancer rocks, man. Do you? Everybody bipartisanly says, great, we love science, but we're not going to do anything about it. And the reason we're not going to do anything about it is because our constituents don't care. That's not the truth, right? You care. Your friends care. Your family cares. So the number one thing you can do, besides thinking about these great, big, huge, broad issues, which you're doing right now, which is fantastic because as a graduate student, I wasn't, so good on you, is talk. Talk your science. Talk to anybody who will listen. Talk to your mom, your dad, whomever. Julie McClure at ASBMB tells a great story. She told her grandmother that she was a cell biologist. Her grandmother thought that meant she studied jail cells. So talk. Talk, talk, talk. And don't be afraid to talk. And don't be afraid to be controversial. It's your responsibility. You are the stewards of taxpayer money. It's your responsibility to talk about it. You have a reputation that you've earned as scientists. And there's a reward. Everybody gets better from it. That I'll leave. You can read that. If you want to know what to do, I can put you in touch with people. Or give you references. Okay? And this is, I think the reason that I was asked to kind of sum this up is we're having one of the sessions on Tuesdays about science and politics. And this kind of gets you thinking about how you can put your science in that perspective. Any questions?